until now. Okay, so continuing on in this Verbringen from 1960, Bais Taamuz, Rebbe goes on to discuss the chapter of Tehillim that the previous Rebbe, the 12th of Tammuz is the previous Rebbe's birthday, and it's customary to say the chapter of Tehillim of the Rebbe associated with the amount of associated with his age. So even after his passing, it's still customary to say that chapter of Tehillim. So the chapter of Tehillim that was begun in the year 1960, Bais Taamuz, was chapter 104. But let me just paraphrase from what Rebbe says over here. Rebbe said a discourse in this Verbringen, and Rebbe said that the discourse I gave was based upon the notes of the Tzemach Tzedek on Tehillim number Pei Aleph 81. The previous Rebbe publicized a custom to say Tehillim according to the amount of years that you're alive. So, for example, if you turn bar mitzvah, you say chapter 14 because it's your 14th year of life, and you're born is your first year of life, and your 13th is your 14th year of life. So too, from 14 and on, you say the chapter of Tehillim according to the years of life. So when you finish 80 years, you say chapter 81. So although according to halacha, there's a question whether time applies to the soul after it departs from the body. And Gemara discusses this regarding the laws of inheritance. Nevertheless, we find in the code of Jewish law that even after the soul ascends in the body, the soul can still have atonement. There's set times for this atonement. At the time of when you say Yizkar, when the people give tzedakah for those on behalf of those who passed away. So by giving tzedakah at that time, that causes an neshama to be elevated. So it comes out that there is something that we do over here in this world that connects the soul with time in this world. So that means even according to the opinion which says that the neshama herself has no connection to time once it leaves the world, and certainly there's no the whole concept of age doesn't apply to the soul after leaves the world. Nevertheless, it is within the power of us here in this world through our efforts in Torah, mitzvahs, and tzedakah, especially in tzedakah, to cause a kapara for those who passed away in those sad times, and through this to cause an elevation in their soul every year. So this is not necessarily relevant to those who need to have atonement, because even tzaddikim, the tzaddikim of the generation, that people mention their souls, and the souls of the righteous don't need the atonement. They get stuck on behalf of those who are tzaddikim. And although the Rebbe Rashab said that when someone does something in memory of a Rebbe, it's more something that he does for his own sake, because the Rebbe doesn't necessarily need the merits of the person, the mitzvahs the person is doing. So it's more about stuff we're doing for ourselves. Nevertheless, in the simple sense, by a person doing something in this world, it has an effect on the soul of the tzaddik. So how much more so is this true for a tzaddik who is connected to all the Jews of the generation, who is called a neshama klalos, a general soul. So as long as his children are alive, he is also alive. So it's understood that when his children are involved in Torah mitzvahs in a specific time, that also affects his elevation in Gan Eden by the one, as the Talmud says, just like his children are alive. So to his he alive, so when his children are involved in something in Torah mitzvahs here in this world, that affects him as well, who is also alive, with every single action that they do every single year. So too is this true regarding the subject that we're talking about, that by doing the takana, by doing what the previous Rebbe established to do. Free Rebbe said to do. That causes something in heaven as well. And there's something that of chapter 81 in Tillim that begins. And that's why we find in the Friedrich Rebbe's notes that he wrote down that when his father turned 80 years old, after his passing, his father didn't live till 80. When his father turned 80 years old, so he saw in a vision, in a dream, that his father said a mimer on chapter 81 in Tillim. That's when the Tillim began, and so that's relevant. So, the Rebbe is explaining this chapter because that's the chapter 81, 1960. That's the chapter the Rebbe began that year, no? 81, Samach Bais, to Tafshin Chaf. No, it's not the chapter. That's not the Rebbe's chapter. Let's see. No, it's not there. It's in the 1990s. Why is it mentioning chapter 81 until? You just said because that's the source for saying. Oh, in general. Yeah, but the Rebbe is specifically highlighting this chapter for some reason. I mean, what happened in that year, that 1960, that would be relevant to? Is that the Friedrich Rebbe's 80th birthday? Yes, it is. The Friedrich Rebbe was born in Tafresh Mem. Not Tafresh Mem. Okay. Thank you. So in this chapter, the King David talks about in this chapter about the Aveda that you didn't do in this world and what they're given from heaven. This is in this chapter, King David says these words, which are words we say in our davening every day. He says, "Open your mouth wide," Hashem says, "and I will satisfy you." And it says in the Gemara that when a person asks something, he is from Hashem. He's like someone who's standing in the doorway, a poor person standing in the doorway, and he doesn't lift up his head. The poor person by the door doesn't lift up his head to ask for too much, and that, more than Tafresh Pei. So he's born Tafresh Pei. So Tafshin Chaf is 80. Okay, the Friedrich of his 80th birthday. Fine, thank you. So a poor person standing by the doorway doesn't ask for too much. So the Gemara asks. It says that when we ask from Hashem, it says, open your mouth wide and Hashem will answer you. And the Gemara answers when it's all that says that you're supposed to, it's not the question. It says that when you ask from Hashem, you're like a poor person standing by the door, you don't ask for too much. And yet it says in another pasuk, open your mouth wide. So which one is it? So Gemara answers, it depends about what you're asking for. If you're asking for Torah, open your mouth wide, ask for as much Torah as possible. Or more, open your mouth wide. You're asking for your other needs, so then you're like a poor person standing by the door. You don't ask for too much. So that's what the Gemara says. And Tzemach Tzedek quotes this Gemara and he brings it down to Marsha. The Marsha says that the beginning of the verse is, "I am Lord your God, took you out of Egypt." So don't think Hashem says, "Look, I'm the one who took you out of Egypt." And so you could see I could do lots of great stuff. So I'm able to fulfill all your requests in studying Torah because I'm the one who took you out of Egypt. That's what the Marsha says. Now the Tzemach Tzedek comments, and Tzemach Tzedek explains that David HaMelech asked Hashem that Hashem should open his eyes and he should see the miracles of Torah. They should see the secrets of the mitzvahs. So don't think that Hashem can't fulfill this because Hashem was the one who took us out of Mitzrayim. So what's the relevance to Mitzrayim specifically? Why that miracle of all miracles? Tzemach Tzedek says Mitzrayim were in the 49th gate of impurity. And despite the fact that we were so low Mitzrayim, yet Hashem lifted us up on the eagle's wings. And so the 50th day since we left Mitzrayim, we're already face to face with Hashem at Mount Sinai. So don't think Hashem is saying, don't think I can't fulfill your request in the words of Torah, because I'm the one who took you out of Egypt and you were in the lowest place of impurity. Certainly I could give you the wonders of Torah. I could give you the secrets of mitzvahs. And Tzemach Tzedek explains the words, and I will satiate you. V'amaleyu, open your mouth wide, and I will satiate you. That this word, I will fill you, literally, is related to another pasuk, Das Rabbi Malu Kohin Yokanayim, which the pasuk says, with knowledge, the rooms will be full of all precious and pleasant things. So that pasuk also talks about filling the rooms with knowledge, which means filling the rooms means filling our soul, satisfying our soul. So the pasuk is saying that we ask Hashem for Torah. Don't limit your request. Like, in other words, like ask like Rabbi Akiva. Like Rabbi Akiva is 40 years old. It's like impossible, it seems, to learn Torah. Don't limit yourself. Hashem took you out of Mitzrayim. That's what the pasuk means. That's how the Maharsha explains the pasuk. We understand, though, when you daven, you're asking for your needs, and you're supposed to first praise Hashem and then daven. So the first few blessings of Shemona Esrei, you're like a servant who praises his master. Then the middle blessings, you're like someone who asks, after you praise your master, like a servant who goes to the master and says, can I have A, B, and C? So you're certainly asking for things that you need. To the extent that there are those who have the opinion that prayer 3 times a day is a rabbinical commandment. It's not a biblical commandment. But praying for our needs, the biblical commandment of prayer is to pray once a day. And there are others who say that praying at all, in general, prayer is rabbinic. But when you feel you need something, then you have a biblical obligation, a mitzvah asay, to ask Hashem for your needs. So praying for your needs is something which is a mitzvah. Even those who say that it's a rabbinical injunction to pray 3 times a day or to pray once a day, but everybody agrees that when you feel you need something, that you have to turn to Hashem and ask for it. So when you feel that you're missing a lot, as the language of the prayer that we say on Slichas and Shani Yom Kippur, Mirum tzarchi amcha, the needs of your people are many. The next line that we say in that prayer is, and their minds are small. The needs of your people are many, and their minds they're narrow. They're in a state of so some comment on this and they say, why do they feel they need so much? They feel they need so much is because their minds are so small. We feel we need so much because our minds are so small. That's what the pasuk. That's what that line of davening is saying. We feel we need so much because we're so small-minded. But nevertheless, despite the fact that that's because I'm small-minded, that's why I feel I have so many needs. Practically, I feel I need something. If I feel I need something, I have a mitzvah to ask Hashem what I need. So how can you say, when the pasuk says, open your mouth wide and I'll satiate you, that's only talking about Torah, not about physical needs. If you feel you need something, and even though maybe it's efficiency, you feel you need something because of your low state, but nevertheless, you still feel you need something that you're required, not just a rabbinical requirement, but a biblical requirement to ask Hashem for. So how can we say this pasuk is only talking about learning Torah, not about physical needs? Let's add to the question. It says in Gemara Yerushalmi, Tractate Tainis, that don't ask Hashem a shmola unfarkvetchte. Don't ask Hashem a small and narrow prayer. Rather, open your mouth wide. Ask all your needs clearly, and Hashem will satiate. That's what Gemara Yerushalmi explains the same pasuk. It says if your prayer is, the Gemara Yerushalmi says, if your prayer is in order, if you've set up your prayer, then don't hold your mouth back and pray for a small, narrow thing. Open up your mouth. Ask for all your needs clearly. If your prayers are set up, that's what the language of the Gemara Yerushalmi is, and that's how also the other commentaries in Tanakh explain this pasuk, different to the Maharsha. Rashi says, "Harchav picha," open your mouth wide to ask for me. Hashem says all the desires of your heart, and I'll satisfy you. And whatever you ask for, I will give. And then that's what the Even HaEzer also says. The Even HaEzer says, "Shetevakesh beficha," you should ask with your mouth, "Kol retzeincha mashal libcha," all your desires and requests of your heart, and I'll satisfy. The Seforno also says, "Harachav picha." He explains. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it tied after though that mentions the remember correctly the two verses where it says, ask me your heart on the fill, the next
verse. I think you're thinking of another verse. You're thinking of a verse. You should, the verse begins, "Have pleasure from God, and He will give you what your heart desires." That's a different verse. And that's not in chapter 8. I don't remember what chapter it is, but it's another chapter until. That's as it first says, "Have pleasure in God," and then God will give you what you're asking for. Right? I think that's what you're referring to. The next verse over here is what we say in davening is, "I trust in your kindness. My heart will sing to you." So we see that although the Gemara Yerushalmi, although the Marsha is saying that you shouldn't ask for all your needs, it seems like there's a biblical obligation to do so, and it seems like other commentaries do understand this as asking for your physical needs. Whatever you ask, whatever you need, and as the Shona says, you should ask for me, and don't think you have to ask for anyone else or bow down to anybody else to get what you want. Only ask for me. I'm not sure what these words mean. Ha'emek she'ela or ya'gava l'mayla. Maybe that means no matter how low your request is, I'm not sure. No matter where you are, maybe I'm not sure what it's referring to. Either way, but at the end of this Forno says that you should ask from me and don't ask from anybody else. So Chera, this contradicts the words of the Gemara and Brachas. The Gemara says, what is this pasuk referring to? Ask for Torah. But your other needs, you should be like a poor person by a doorway. Don't ask for too much. The Tzemach Tzedek, in his notes in Tillim, he actually mentions two things. First, he mentions the Gemara, which says it's talking about Torah, and then he brings his second section in his notes. He brings this teaching of Rabbi Reish Lakish, who says that if your prayer is in order, you should ask for everything. So what's going on? So there are two explanations of the Rebbe on this. Let's do one of them now. One of them, it goes like this. Isn't this for bringing? There's another for bringing the Rebbe gave in Yidafnis and Tavshman Bais on this pasuk. You'll get that tomorrow. But this for bringing the Rebbe says like this. When a Jew feels a deficiency in a way that he feels like he has so many needs, even though it's because his mind he's looking at things in a very small-minded way, certainly as a mitzvah of the Torah not to ask this from anybody else, and certainly he is commanded by Hashem not to think that his power can get it. He's meant he shouldn't think I can get it by myself. He has to know that God is the one who gives you the power to be successful. So the only place to ask for your needs is by Hashem. And therefore, he has to approach and come to Hashem and ask for his needs. But it's also understood, and it's also obvious, that Hashem is not telling us that we should stay in the small-minded place. And automatically, Hashem doesn't want us to be in a state Hashem doesn't want us to have this sense of worry for all these kinds of things. On the contrary, the Seder HaOlam, the way the Hashem set up the world, the way it's supposed to be, according to good midas, the way upright midas is, that when you ask for something, you should be like a poor man by the door. That a person should know in himself he doesn't have so many merits, that he's able to ask Hashem for all of his needs. He doesn't have the zroya. He doesn't have the legal right to demand that Hashem should give him all of his needs. The person should know when he approaches Hashem looking at things with regular sense of good character, you know that you can't really tell Hashem you owe me something. Rather, the way you ask from Hashem is you ask Hashem with kindness, to give you tzedakah. You're like a poor man by the door saying, Hashem, I want tzedakah because I don't deserve. Therefore, you don't lift up your head and to ask for a lot, because whatever Hashem gives you, you're happy with. So therefore, when it says in the pasuk, open your mouth wide, which means it's a commandment. Hashem said you have to open your mouth wide. You can't say it's talking about physical needs, because a commandment is only relevant for someone who has who's looking at things in a small-minded way, and therefore he feels all these needs. And he Taco feels that way, is commanded by Hashem to ask for whatever he needs. But somebody who is not so far-fetched, someone who is able someone who's happy with what he has, why should Hashem tell him, open up your mouth wide? He's happy with what he has. So that's what the Gemara means when it says that what's the way you're supposed to approach Hashem according to Torah? When it says, open your mouth wide, that's talking about asking for Torah. That's something which is relevant to everybody. In other words, if you're talking a state of small-mindedness, so then you have to ask for what you need. But Hashem not telling you every person in a state of small-mindedness. So therefore, when the Torah says open your mouth wide, it's a commandment to everybody. Everyone should ask for lots of things. For open your mouth wide. It must be it's something that's relevant to everyone, even to those people who don't feel they're missing anything. That pasuk must be talking about asking for Torah. That's something that everyone should ask for. Everyone should open their mouth wide and ask Hashem to give them lots of Torah. And Hashem promises a Jew that he'll fulfill his requests for Torah. As Gemara says, if you make an effort, Hashem says you'll be successful. And so since you've tried as much as you could, so Hashem gives you far beyond what you tried for. So Reish Lakish adds to that. Reish Lakish adds something more. That's what the Gemara Bracha says. Gemara Bracha says, if Hashem is telling you to open your mouth wide, it can't be that it's talking about physical needs, because not everyone is in that state of that small-mindedness, that need for everything kind of thing. If you feel that way, you have a mitzvah to ask for it. But if you don't feel that way, Hashem is not asking you to suddenly be unsatisfied where you are. But Reish Lakish says like this. Reish Lakish says, if your prayer is in order, don't hold your mouth back, open your mouth wide. What does it mean your prayer is in order? So Tzemach Tzedek says that the first Chassidim, when they would pray, the first Chassidim doesn't mean the Chassidim of the Baal Shem Tov. The Gemara is referring to the original, most pious Jews at that time. It says that they would wait for an hour before they began to pray. They would pray for an hour, and after they finished praying, they would again contemplate for another hour afterwards. That means that their davening was done the way it's supposed to be, that they were conscious about the one before whom they stood, and after they made the appropriate preparation according to 10 conditions that are mentioned in Poskim and mentioned in Halacha, what you need to do before you pray, then they began to pray. So when your prayer is in such a way, then Hashem says, open your mouth wide, ask for all your needs. What does that mean? There is someone if someone's still in the middle of serving Hashem, then the Torah says that you should be like the poor man by the door and don't lift your head up to ask for too much. Only ask as much as you need to live. Because if you're only serving Hashem in the first level of serving Hashem, the first stage, so then having too many gashmistic things, too many physical things will confuse you. But when you're in a higher level, so then you shouldn't hold your mouth back. Rather, you should open your mouth wide, even for your physical needs. Because your physical needs are not something which you need for yourself. Rather, with your physical needs, you could serve Hashem in so many ways. As the Torah says, in all your ways you should know it. So that's what Reish Lakish means when he says that when your prayers are in order, doesn't mean that your prayers are in order means that you're serving an Hashem in a higher level. And therefore, your physical needs have meaning. And in other words, there is a time we need to abstain from physical things. And that physical things could bring you down. So then the Torah says, be like poor man by the door and only ask for. So we have 3 different kinds of scenarios that we're saying so far. One scenario is where you look at things the way things are, how much you are deserving in heaven to get. You realize you don't deserve anything. And you also don't feel like you feel happy with what you have. And then the Torah says, okay, so only ask to live. The way you should approach Hashem is not Hashem owes you something. Ask what you need to live. And there's another person who's small-minded and he feels like he needs all these kinds of things. So Torah says you have a mitzvah. You have to ask for all your needs. Ask for everything. And then there is a third category of when you need to ask for all your needs, even though you're in a higher level. Why? When you're in a lower level, so the physical needs, the physical abundance could disturb you. But when you're in a higher level, so the physical needs are tools to know Hashem. That you use those physical things to make vessels for godliness, to make a home for Hashem in the lowest realm. And therefore, you have to ask for your needs, that everything you want, you should be beautiful and amazing. Open your mouth wide, in order that you should know Hashem with a more broader way. As the Gemara says, that there are three things that broaden a person's mind: a beautiful home, a beautiful wife, and beautiful furniture. So since the Gemara has many meanings, but there's also the simple meaning. Like the Zohar says that a beautiful home means Torah, beautiful furniture means mitzvahs, a beautiful wife means the neshama. But there's also a simple meaning of this passage. So that means that they're talking about a beautiful home and a beautiful furniture in a simple sense. Because if you're an Adam, the word Adam over here doesn't just mean you're a man. It means the word Adam means you're Adam ele Elyon. We're talking about someone who is similar to Hashem in the sense that he's living in a spiritual way. So since everything in the world is created for you, as the Gemara says that God made the whole world for Adam, so everything is meant for him to use, to use what Hashem gave him to make a home for Hashem in this world. And therefore, he can't say, oh, I don't want that. I don't need that. Rather, open your mouth wide in order that you should have everything in a comfortable way. And that's what the Gemara means when it says that a person will have to give a account to Hashem for everything you saw, you didn't eat. How can you bust such a Baal Taiva? Whatever you see, you have to eat. The seafood diet, whatever I see, I eat. So if you need to eat, then you need to eat. If not, why are we saying that it's an Avera, that you saw something, you didn't eat it? And the answer is, if you are an Adam, if you are on a higher spiritual plane, so then you're eating like a carb. Not talking about a regular person. Regular person not supposed to eat everything he sees. But we're talking about a tzaddik. When he eats, his eating is a mitzvah. That's what you find by some of the Rebbeim, that they lived in a very comfortable, very rich way, a chavadik way. And as the Gemara says about a Kohen Gadol, that a Kohen Gadol is supposed to be, everyone's supposed to give money to a Kohen Gadol, so he should be richer than everybody else. And because the Kohen Gadol, in short, we're talking about someone who, whatever Hashem shows him, it's for him. There's a purpose for it. He has the ability to elevate. And so that's what Rish Lakish says when he says, if your prayers are in order, don't hold your mouth back, open your mouth wide. That means when a Jew feels that, but he is in a state where his prayers are in order. So then all the requests that he asks from Hashem, the 12 middle brachas of Shemoneh Esrei, even about physical things, he should open his mouth in a wide way, and then Hashem will satisfy. Okay, we'll continue with him tomorrow. Any questions? Okay.